Happy 2026. It's the new year. It's the first episode of 2026 for the Play Ed 3 podcast. Tisha, Happy New Year.
Hello. Happy New Year. I am so glad it's 2026.
You're just happy to see the back of 2025 and just start
Yes.
fresh, right?
2025, from the outside looking in, if anybody was just doing a brief overview of my life of 2025, they would say that's the most fantastic year she's probably ever had. And they would be wrong.
Would you say that your presence publicly represents social media as a whole?
What do you mean by that?
Well, we always say that social media it doesn't tell the whole truth of what's going on. And
no.
yeah, would you agree with that you have been representing yourself publicly
I think
in a
I've
false sense or in a
No.
small portion of what your life's actually been?
I think what I've done for the first time is I think you if you were listening to the Play It 3 podcast or you were following me on specifically TikTok or you're my actual friend on Facebook, because I am not accepting people
Actual
on
friend
Facebook.
on Facebook.
Well, so here's the thing. When I say that, I mean I accept Facebook requests if we have had a conversation and we know each other, right?
Okay.
It
So why are
isn't
we not
just
friends?
we are friends on Facebook. Did you forget?
Are we?
Yes. So I think for the first time, I've actually portrayed everything as a whole. You're seeing the successes, but I've been very truthful and authentic about the struggles. But that's only for people who are really listening, right? There may be people who are
Yeah.
just choosing to see the successes. And we had a lot of great successes in 2025. The book was released. We started the podcast. We presented at
Yep.
ISTE.
We
I
had 6
changed
sessions
roles.
during that 2 weeks.
We did. We both changed jobs, like in our
Yep.
career
Yeah, we
or
did.
roles multiple times. I think there was a lot happening, but for me, my health, my body was really saying, you're not treating me okay. And so I'm going to yell about it every single
Yep.
day of 2025.
The body
So,
spoke the truth to you
yeah, that's the
in a way.
only way. I think you're gonna if you see me in if you see me at all in 2026, I am probably not gonna be the same version of me that you saw before, because I've learned a lot of really tough lessons personally and set a lot of different boundaries now for myself. So I think that's, it's a good
So
thing for
there's
2020.
been a
And
really big change for this new year for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But this isn't like for the new year. I'm sure, and I'll ask you, in 2025, how would you describe your 2025?
Mine was fantastic. I mean, I've been the best health I've ever been. No, I'm not. I just wanted to be completely the opposite to what you've had.
You're always trying to
I
start
will
right.
I will admit though that 2025 was probably one of, not to rub it in, one of my best years that I've had
It was
for me.
yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
talked about
Mhm.
why 2025 was my best year and how it's not been your best year, but things are
Yeah.
to follow.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that, and I think it's really good for people to hear us say that we had two completely different experiences of it, because when
Yep.
you're looking, it probably appears like we are having the same experience.
Yeah.
And I will always say, what you think you know about a person from social media is not everything about that person.
Well, I think this
So,
is the interesting thing though, Tish, because you've been a lot more present on social media towards the end of 2025. You were, because obviously you had your challenge with
had my
from Brian
challenge.
Seppi,
Yes.
which pushed you out of your comfort zone, which was fantastic to see. And a lot of the videos that you've posted, especially on TikTok, focusing around your ADHD and stuff, have been extremely powerful. And even though you've had not the best year last year, and I've had for me personally, a far
The
better
best
year.
year. Yeah.
I've been a lot more quiet on social
You
media. I've
have,
obviously,
yeah.
apart from posting, so for those that don't know, I do all the Player 3 marketing as well as all the Player 3 editing, and I'm a co-host. And basically, Tish just turns up and records. She looks
That's
pretty,
not
and
true. That's
no,
not
no.
true.
But
I do a
my
lot of the back
focus.
end recording and metrics and
You do a
planning,
lot of
recruitment.
organizing
I
and
do all of
everything,
that.
yeah. So,
Yes.
it is a very split. I was just winding you up, but I've my only part of social media really has been, apart from the odd few that I've posted, has been with the Player 3 podcast. So
Mhm.
I've not been vocal that much about what has gone on for me. Yes, we had the book. Yes, we had Player 3.
Mhm.
Um, I stepped away from Wakeler. I've
Mhm.
made some went to ISTE for the first time. We both did as
Yeah.
ourselves,
As
and for
ourselves,
me,
yeah.
that was my first time to do that, because obviously you'd been to ISTE. First one was in 2019,
Sure.
where you were essentially representing yourself. Obviously, you were
Yeah.
there on
I was
behalf
there
of
with
with other people.
Flipgrid. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for me, ISTE was a stepping stone for me. I see it as, of networking, meeting new people, which I did, and it was fantastic. I'm still keeping in touch with everyone and really getting more involved with the community, and that's what
Mhm.
I'm planning to continue to grow into the new year. Is the systems that I've set up? How do I enhance them
Mm.
further? And I think for yourself, it's very much of a we've talked about the change that you've been going through, the stuff that
Mm.
you've been doing, and speaking of change, if you are
Yeah.
watching the video on Spotify or YouTube, you will see that Tish's studio's changed a bit. She's
The
no
studio's
longer
changed.
it's
I'm
like
wearing
you're
glasses.
wearing
Yes.
glasses. I mean, I think it's just because you saw how cool I looked and thought, "You know what? I need a bit of that." Um, and you're still holding a remarkably large mug.
Yeah, this mug was given to me when I started working at Wakelet, actually. Let the adventure
Wow.
begin is what it
There you
says.
go. It
And
aligns with everything.
I think it aligns with a mindset.
Mm.
Speaking of adventure, you've traveled a lot this last, like in 2025, you traveled so much. And I was the complete opposite. I didn't
Mhm.
travel at all except for
Yeah.
Bet
Yeah.
and haven't flown actually since Bet,
Mhm.
um, which was a year ago this January.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting just kind of hearing, even for me, to hear your experience of 2025 versus my experience of 2025. It doesn't mean that 2025 was bad, but
No.
I was just challenged in a lot of ways that were very difficult and very evident because my body was really in crisis,
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. It
Like, I'm
was
not even going to sugarcoat it. It was
no.
not good.
No, it wasn't for you. And we're not here for the sympathy vote or anything like that
No.
with what Tish has gone
I'm
through,
always
but
gonna share
you've
my lessons. If you know me, you know I'm not looking for any sympathy. I've been through a
no.
lot of things in
You
my life.
you kept a lot of it quiet, and I remember you telling people, like, this has been a not a great year. I've had this and this and this, and people are shocked the fact that you've essentially kept quiet with a lot of the stuff that's gone on. Obviously, you've communicated with me with everything that's gone
Yeah.
on. You still, even to this day, you still showed up every single week for the
Yeah.
podcast. You still showed up for work. You still showed up for the people around you, and you
Mhm.
were going through, I will watch the language, but you went through hell, really, with it all.
Yeah, it
So
was not good. But I think that's it. I think that's the lesson. I never share my stories for any sort of sympathy. It's really to let people know that whatever they're going through, other people are too. And a lot of times, you think it's just you. You think you're the only one. And
mhm,
I've had multiple experiences with that over my life, but I think it's all about an internal lesson. There was something I had to learn, and there was something I had to learn to do, but set boundaries, not let myself get to burnout stage, address the ADHD specifically. There have been lots of personal growth. I even started a Substack. So
yeah,
of
which is
course we're
amazing.
writers, but
Yep.
I wanted to continue exploring writing from an individual perspective. I've started a
Mhm.
new book. which you
Yeah.
know about. I don't think anybody
Yes.
else knows, but I
No.
have been writing it
Which
here
is
and there.
amazing to see the growth that you are making as you're stepping into this new year.
Yeah.
I do want to kind of, I
Shift?
want to relate, well,
Oh.
shift, but I want to relate to the things that you've gone through. Obviously,
Mm,
you're no longer in the classroom, but you're getting the experience from a more corporate level
mm,
and having the impacts and everything that's gone on. And now we're moving into a new year. It's not necessarily a new year for teachers because
mm-mm.
they're halfway through the year already.
Sure. Sure.
That was a mindset that I had really had to shift into when people were like, "Oh yeah, so when we start next year," and I'm like, don't you mean this year? Because you're talking about October and we're in
Mm.
June, and I'm like, that's confusing. But they're looking at it from the next academic
Yeah,
year.
like, it's like
So
whenever you're at a company, your fiscal year may start in March or April or January. For
true.
teachers, their year starts
That's
typically in August, so whenever school
yeah.
starts, and then they have a long holiday break,
Hmm.
and then they're back in the classroom.
Well, you say long holiday break.
Well, I'm using long
Yeah.
as it's not really that long, but it is the longer of the breaks that they get
Yeah.
besides summer.
Yeah. Just wanted to make that clear that it's
Yeah,
not a long break like what a
no.
lot of people would assume it to be.
You mean in the
But
UK where they take long holidays legit?
not necessarily. Our teachers do not really take the time
That's
that
sad. Makes
everybody
me
else
sad.
takes when
Well, I think you find that in
they're
all
looking.
teachers, and I will say, you actually are relating this back to what I was sharing earlier. One of the things I learned as a teacher, just in general, is to put myself on the back burner.
Hmm.
That is just a natural flow for a teacher, and
So
we've talked
can you
about
just
it.
explain when you're saying put yourself
Yeah.
on the back burner? Can you just expand on that just so that
Okay.
if
I'm
everybody
gonna
else is listening understands is purely for my own understanding?
Sure. I think I'll just give you a day in the life of Tisha when she was a teacher and a mom.
Yep.
Uh, so essentially, you're getting up at like 5:30, and
Mm.
you might be getting up at 5:30 so that you can just have 30 minutes of silence with nobody around, or you're getting up to go work out so that you have silence with no one around.
Um,
But essentially, I had 3 kids. That's a lot of people to get ready that I'm responsible for before I ever get
yeah.
myself out the door. So that would start at 6:30. We'd get out the door at 7:30, give or take. I would already have dropped off 3 different people at 3 different buildings and sat in 3 different car drop off lines before I ever make it to the parking lot of my school. I sit there for a minute, really, probably a minute. I bring in all 3 of my drinks. I would always have a water bottle, a coffee mug, and usually protein shake because if you're ADHD, you know.
Yep.
Hopefully I've meal prepped. Otherwise, what am I doing for
Hopefully.
lunch? We don't know.
Potentially
So then
nothing.
the minute you walk into the school building, you have to be on. It may be another teacher that you're meeting with. There may be students standing at your door waiting to talk to you or to come in to make up a
Mhm.
test. It is go time immediately. And then you just all day long, even if you have built in like a conference break or a lunch break, you can absolutely bet that someone is asking for your time and energy in those moments.
Yeah.
And it's a constant flow of people and energy. And because we're there, because we love teaching and we love our students, we're always going to put them first. So even if I had a plan to go eat lunch with my friend down the hall, but there's 3 students standing in front of me who need to make up a test or meet with me or need help, I'm choosing that to make sure that
Yeah.
they're successful. Now, I've taken time away from that plan. That goes all day long. Maybe we've talked bus duty. Listen,
Mhm.
I think when
Yep.
Brian Seppi was on or somebody, I can't remember who said this, but it was like, "You think bus duty's like 10 minutes? No, bus duty's gonna be like 40 minutes of your day." And
Mhm.
now that's already like probably 4:30 or 4:45, depending on where you're teaching. Then you still have to go
Mm.
back in the building, and you still have to either do your admin, do your attendance, do your grades, print out your grades, make plans. You may not leave that school building unless you have really great boundaries until like 5:30.
Yeah.
And then you go home.
I
To
think this is
what?
I think this is the
To make
interesting thing.
dinner, to get ready, to meal prep, to go to bed, to do the same thing over the next
But
day.
I think this is the interesting thing because I was listening to you say, give
Mm.
your story as a teacher.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first things that came into my head, you know that I like to be not deliberately, but I like to be devil's advocate with these
Yeah,
things to give the different spin on it because
sure.
as you've gone through that, I've gone through about 10 different conversations in my head of all
This
the
is the
different things that can be said.
neurodivergence in
Yeah,
us. Yes.
million%.
Okay.
So let's start off from the beginning, getting the kids ready, getting them out the house, stuck in
Yeah,
traffic, dropping them off at
yeah.
school, getting to
Lots
work.
of stress already.
Ev-
Yeah.
every single person that has a family or is commuting
Mhm.
to work goes through that stress. So
Sure.
my argument, first one is, well, that's no different to me at such and such a job.
Awesome. Then you walk into a building with over 100, sometimes 150 to 200 people waiting for you.
Hold, hold on.
Okay,
Like
I'm
I say,
ready.
I've had
Ooh,
10
you got me fired
I've
up. I don't
I've
know why
got
you're
10
doing this for the new year.
I've got 10
10 more
conversations already. I've
conversations?
got 10 conversations that have already gone through in my head. So when
Okay.
you're going through your points, I've already had that conversation in my head of I know exactly what Tisha is going to respond with. It's going to be fiery, it's going to be passionate,
You
and
knew.
I knew exactly what was going to happen. So yes, I got you on your soapbox from the get-go for 2026. It's a great start to the year. But yeah, as you just said, uh, you might have a colleague, you might have students that come in, there might be requirements that come in, there's some, I don't know, an emergency's happened, you need to get involved with
Mm,
something from the
mhm,
moment you step through that front door.
mhm.
Now, again, some people are going to go, oh, well, I do that. Do you have it every single day? I will guarantee 99% of people that don't work in the education sector that have a either
Mm-mm.
corporate job,
Yep, yep.
let's say hypothetically a desk job,
Mhm.
are not going to have that situation at
No,
all.
because you aren't responsible for 120 people every single day, every
Exactly.
single moment of that day. Even
Exactly.
if even if they're not in your classroom, essentially there is a responsibility for those students every day. You are the adult of that
Yes.
building, and I think that's it. I've worked both sides. I can tell you, I can tell you right now, the stress at the desk job or the corporate job or the ed
Mm.
tech job is much less
Yeah,
than it
100%.
is in a
Because
building. So
I think I
I was
do
just
want to
gonna
say
say I
one
learned
last thing.
my body learned, all of our bodies learned to be in fight or flight because we were having to
Mm,
be over vigilant to make sure everybody around us was taken care of.
yes. And it goes
For
back to that whole being on the back burner is what you're
Yeah,
meaning with
yeah,
that. So that makes
yeah,
complete sense. And I just want to make one final thing. This is to the people who aren't in education, who complain about
yeah.
educators going on strike or um, just
Just
they're not
complaining
doing
about them in
just
general.
complaining about education in general.
Mhm.
This one's for you. How many times in your job have you been told, would you like to have a meeting this afternoon or late this afternoon, or would you like to have it in the morning? And you've chosen, I'll have it in the morning because I don't really want to have a meeting towards the end of the day because I want to kind of take it easy and then leave. Whereas you just said, when you're doing bus service or bus duty, it takes
Mm,
40 minutes. Then you have to go inside. You have to sort out the registration. You have to sort out grading. You have to print something off.
yeah.
Yeah, you're finishing at 5:30, which again would be my devil's advocate. Well, I finish at 5:30. I have to go and
It's
commute
awesome.
home. I have
You're
to
only
go and cook
responsible
dinner
for
and all that
you
kind of
and your
stuff.
own work.
Exactly, which is why I'm
That's it.
saying that if you're complaining about educators, um, having loads of time off and going on strikes, even though they have all this time off, they're better off than we are and all that. No, go and actually deal with the fact that you're working from the moment you step through that front door at the school all the way to the moment you step out, and you are going at 110%
Mm. The
every
whole
single
day.
minute
Yeah,
for 5 days a week.
yeah.
Let's see if you would I would actually say, you know what? Everybody needs to be in education at least
You
1
you
year
you would want that. I remember
just
we
to
talked about
understand.
that last year in some of our episodes. I was saying, like, my call
Mm,
to action to you is to go spend a day, go
yeah.
sign up, go do the background check, go observe. Like,
Mhm.
you absolutely can do that. If you have kids in a school, just go observe. You can ask the teacher to go. They'll do a background check. You'll sit through the day, watch what happens. I guarantee it will change your entire perspective of teachers because we just talked about the basics. We didn't
Mm.
talk about all of the
Oh, yeah.
students who are being sassy. Just the other
That's
day here in Texas, I don't even want, I'm not even going to speak about the story, but what I am going to say is in Texas, I believe it was in Goose Creek ISD where I have actually done professional development. There was a very severe, tragic scenario in a classroom with
mhm.
students. And you hear more and more about students becoming unruly and not listening and being disrespectful. Like everything I just talked about didn't even hit on the one-to-one or group interactions that you're having with these students.
Yeah.
Like that takes a lot of energy to classroom manage a group of
Mhm.
students on a daily basis.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
mean,
Which is
imagine you having to classroom manage your coworkers.
yeah, and
I mean,
30 of them every hour, and they've got to
yeah.
sit and listen to you. Um,
And they're not going
it's not
to.
isn't there, they're not going to. They're not going to at all. People are gonna complain if as adults, if we're told to sit in a class in a room at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and listen to someone talk for an hour, and we're just like, "We're tired, we don't wanna do this."
The students
Now
feel the
take
same
now
way.
take 30 teenagers,
Yeah.
and that teacher's gotta control them. And these
Yeah.
are teenagers who are going
It's a
through or,
lot.
just kids in general. They're not familiar with the things that we've learned as when we're adults and
It
stuff
goes
and moving on.
back,
But
Rick, it goes back to what we said in the beginning of this episode, which is what you think you know
mhm,
about a thing isn't actually the reality of it. And I think that's
yes,
really what we're talking about, the realities of the classroom teacher, the realities of people's lives that you aren't seeing on social media. It's so easy. So easy to
yeah,
be a keyboard warrior. It's so easy
absolutely.
to just, shoot off whatever words you want and be critical. I see it all day, every day. And it's as if our entire society is just becoming desensitized to that, just
Mm,
so opinionated, as if their opinions are changing the school system.
yeah. No,
They're not.
exactly, exactly. They're not,
And
they're
they're
not.
not any help to teachers who are struggling.
Yeah.
So
So, taking that and taking a little bit of a segue, what
Mm.
what would I'd like to look at is things that we can do to assist teachers with we're into a new year
Hmm,
and we want to look at it's a new semester goal setting.
okay.
Now, my approach of goal setting, I've really taken on what Brian Seppi said, and I know Tish likes to go back to that episode, so I'm going to do
That's a
it
good
for this
it
one.
was our top episode. And
It was
it was
yeah,
a
we
top
loved it.
episode for a reason. He was I mean, even still, he's dropping some truth bombs over on
He
TikTok,
is, he is.
that I'm hearing. He as a coach, he's going into classrooms, and he does this right before a holiday or whatever, and I used to do the same thing, to help teachers, but I would go in and offer time. Like, I talk about time and money. If you wanna help somebody, you give them more time back or you give them money or you give them both. That's how
Yeah,
you help teachers.
yeah, absolutely, 1 million
Sorry,
percent.
you
You're
got me
correct.
on my soapbox, and I'm
I know. I got
always
you.
gonna fight for my teachers,
Oh yeah,
always.
we're both going to fight for the teachers because they go through so much,
Goal
and we
setting
want to
though,
advocate for them.
you're
And
saying goal setting
yeah,
to a teacher, and you got me in this mode, and I'm like, "Rick, I don't even wanna, like, the bad word was to come out, but I'm
yeah,
like,
I know.
whatever to goal setting. You want
Mm,
we just talked about all that. You want me to add more goals to my plate? No, I don't wanna do that."
but
That's
then
what I would tell you,
that's why I would be looking at changing changing the system
the
as
wording. Oh, the
as
system.
Brian
Okay.
said that we rather than looking at a goal, what is the process you're doing and what can we do to assist it? Now, for us, obviously. we created the book Today's Learners, Tomorrow's Leaders, and we put in there a number of things that teachers can incorporate into their classroom,
Yeah.
not to be
Yeah.
like, you know what, you're a teacher, do your job better. Is nothing like that. Because if we're advocating for educators and we're there telling them you need to do your
I'm
job better,
not
that's
going
not
to say
really
that.
advocating for
If
them. I'm not.
anybody
No,
is
I'm not
saying
saying.
that, you know what I mean? I think that's a really good reflective moment right there. If anybody's listening, it doesn't matter what sector of the world you work in. Like, nobody should be telling teachers how to do their job better. I mean, that is just
Oh,
not your
absolutely
role,
not.
right?
No,
I think that's
no.
it. But it is interesting because you said something about systems, and I'm looking at it from that passionate place that I was just in. And I
Just
will
in or
tell,
still in?
I'm still in it. I'm still in it, but you had me really like hot about that for a second.
Mhm, mhm,
I think the it all ties together. I was taught what I should do. I
mhm,
was taught that I should give up all of myself for all of these people around me every day, all the time. Then
mhm.
when I switched going from the classroom into the ed tech space, a desk job as you just described it.
Yeah.
It is completely different, but my mindset did not change on that. So I
Mhm.
continued to give all of myself to all of the people all of the time. And at a certain point, that's going to catch up with you.
Yes.
But teachers, they're hustlers. And I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah.
tell you, like, how did I do all of the things? One, ADHD. Thank you, ADHD superpowers. And also, I'm like, "Ooh, I'll do this. Here's another goal. Here's another thing I can learn." And it just never stops. It doesn't stop until you make it stop. And so you're
Mm.
talking about the new year. I know where you're going with this. You're going with goal setting. Like, "Oh, let's talk about resolutions and let's talk about which is your word of the year." Well, I am going to say to that bollocks.
I
I know
like
that's
it.
a I know that's a bad word in the UK, but it just seemed appropriate at the moment because honestly, I just think teachers need a moment and just let them
Mm.
reflect. They don't need a word of the year. They don't need another word of the year. They might want it and that's fine. But I this idea, I'm challenging the whole idea of goal setting because it's January, setting
Yep.
4 new resolutions just because someone told us to. That hustle culture is fading is what I believe.
Mhm.
And I
Ooh,
think you're
okay, okay,
seeing that.
that's interesting. That hustle, I just wanna repeat that. You believe that the hustle culture is fading.
I do believe that because I think people are finding out the same thing I found out in 2025. They're burnt
Okay.
out and they are losing focus on the things that matter and the things that are
Mm.
huge purpose in their life. And I think it's easy to stack goal upon goal upon goal. And what I will say to that is I think a lot of times when we do that, myself included, there is a level of avoidance
Mhm.
to know yourself better. And that is why I'm challenging it. I'm saying this year in January, you don't need any of that. You just need a starting point for reflection. January should be all about reflection. You should just be sitting, no new gym memberships, no new reading book lists, no new I'm going to do 18 things before March and spring break. No. Just sit and reflect because you know what? That's probably more difficult than setting and meeting a goal.
I completely agree with you, which is what I'm
I
loving
don't
this
know,
because
you've really
I've got
tapped
you
into
on your
this today.
yeah, I've got you on your soapbox just like you did to me a few episodes back.
I don't think you
It
expected
wasn't
this
my
from
actual
me
yeah,
today.
no, I didn't. I didn't expect you to be such on your soapbox, but I'm loving it because this is true passion from an educator perspective, and this is what needs to shine. And I think what you've just explained, the idea of reflection over,
Mhm.
as you were saying, New Year's resolution. I brought up the goal setting approach. Yes, we're in the new year and people look at it
Yeah,
as new goals, but that's why I wanted to bring up the whole idea of changing the system rather than the goals. Rather than
yeah.
setting out, oh, I'm going to do this, as you said, by March, I'm going to do this and this and this, and before spring break, I'm going to do that. Reflection, not just on you don't want to reflect on last year in December. Like, we have these wrap ups. I've seen this wrap up. I've done the wrap up.
We've all done the wrap up.
It's like Spotify did the end of year wrap up, and everybody else is copying it.
Yeah.
And I see it more and
Even the
more,
ed
and
tech
it's
platforms do the wrap
yeah,
up.
they do.
Mhm.
And I look on it and I think it's good to look back, but really the year hasn't ended until January comes round.
Mhm.
And
Well, that's your
I,
opinion.
we're not getting into the
I'm so
Chinese New Year
I'm
again, Fish.
I'm so sorry. Okay, okay, okay.
S- But as you say, why not use the entirety of January to reflect on
Yeah.
2025?
Because you just finished
You
the
can't
hustle and
just
bustle of the holidays.
exactly.
Why do you want to continue that in Jan? It just does not
It
logically
doesn't.
make sense to
But at
me.
the same time, we're not going to reflect on 365 days in
No.
one day. Give yourself
Oh, you gotta
time
have a whole month.
to
I would say at
actually
least
do
a
that.
month.
At least a month.
Mhm.
I agree with you. And actually look at, I think this aligns nicely with what I was going with of what do you think worked well for you? And what do you think you could tweak a little bit? I'm not saying about full changing systems. I'm saying about just a slight one alteration that, or a couple of changes that
Yeah.
you think, you know what, that did really well.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
change it to do something slightly different.
Yeah. I agree with you.
That
No, I
way,
think that
it's not
yes.
about do it better. It's about you looking back on the things that you've done of yourself, appreciating the things you've done, and saying, I'm going to move forward with these things. Like for me, 2025 was I listened to more audiobooks than I in 2025 than I ever have
Me
done.
too. Me too.
And that's purely because, not because I wrote a book, but because I've always been one to not want to read because of my dyslexia. But
Mhm.
audiobooks have opened me up to so much more. It's more
Right.
accessible, it's fantastic. And I'm not looking at it going, oh, I went and listened to X number of books. This year, I'm going to increase that to this many by this point. My
Well, I
approach
think
is
that
to continue that momentum.
what you're saying essentially is you are competing with no one except for yourself. That is the key there. And I
Yes.
think, with social media, it becomes this oh, there's a phrase for it. Keeping up with the Joneses is what my dad used to say. It's an old phrase and some
Hmm.
people may have heard that, but it's essentially like keeping up with your neighbor. Like if they get new shutters on their windows, oh, you need new shutters. Oh, they have a new car, I'll go get a new car. It's like this continuous like back and forth,
Chase.
which yes, which is it's like let me chase that thing that they're doing. No, January should be a moment where, like you said, you're sitting down and it isn't that you reflection isn't how do I explain this? Reflection isn't sitting there just thinking of memories of the past year.
Hmm.
It is that, but it's not just that.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is you are thinking of the memories, the habits, the things, the patterns that you did the previous year. But the action with it is for you to take that, just like we've said in our book, like understanding the reflection part of this process. And you're going, okay, I'll give you an example. I started doing something called morning pages every morning before I do anything. So I get up 20 minutes early, I light a candle, I turn on some music, and I just write free flow, stream of conscious, and I just write.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what would make this better is if I had a fountain pen. Now that seems trivial,
But
but
that's a huge change.
the one pen shifts
Hmm.
my entire focus of the importance of morning pages because I love how it feels to write with a fountain pen and it makes things
Mm.
feel more romantic and my writing seems to look better. And now I'm like really focused in and I'm just flowing, right?
Yep.
So that was one shift. Another thing that we could say is for the podcast, we've been doing that. We've been sitting in reflection and going, okay, what worked?
Yep.
What maybe felt hard? What didn't work? What was energizing? And what did the viewers and listeners like the most? Right. And so we didn't just sit. and do a wrap up. Like, we did the wrap up for our own podcast,
Mhm.
but we had a whole conversation plus some about the reflection on those episodes of 2025. And I think what you're saying is really good. The things that you already have in place in your life are great. Tweak them just a little bit. It's sort of like when you do a lot of logos and graphic design work, and it's like you do a single tweak to it. Just one little tweak
Yep.
that I would have never thought of, and it changes the entire
Mhm.
feeling and outward presence of this graphic, right? So
Yep.
it's very much like that. But I'm challenging everyone to just don't take on more goals.
No.
I think we have plenty of goals. I think it's great if that is what you're about. And some people can be about that. I've been about that for a really long time. I love goals. I
Mm.
mean, I took the goal that Brian said, post on TikTok. Don't think about it, no script, just post, see what happens.
Yeah.
I hated that goal, but I did
But
it.
really, all that is just changing your behavior. It's not really a goal, it's
Yes.
changing the system.
It's changing the
It's
behaviors, it's
changing
changing the system. You're right. That's
you
all,
you were always posting.
you're right. I changed how I was posting. And so that is the shift. I knew how to record a video,
Yeah.
but I was always using a script. So toss a script out. I was always only talking about education. Okay, I'm tossing that out. What are the 4 or 5 buckets that I can talk about? Well, I can talk about ADHD, which is becoming a very popular topic on my channel right now. I can talk about romanticizing your life. So I talk about journaling and morning
Mhm.
pages and fountain pens. I can talk about having to be gluten free, legit having to be gluten free, because if I eat gluten, we are not having a fun time. Nobody's having a fun
No.
time,
Well,
right?
no one around you is having a fun time if you've eaten
Yeah.
gluten.
Yeah, and then, what's the other I had another I mean, obviously, I can talk about education because I love talking about technology and
Absolutely.
education and teaching, but it was really just a shift into my personal life so that people could see the whole, but it taught me to relax into those topics and just talk
Mhm.
as if I would talk to you at the store, because even if I don't know you, I'm gonna talk to you.
That is very true. You are someone that, just randomly starts talking to strangers.
I love people. I
You
think
do.
you made it sound weird because you said I was randomly
I did
talking to
not I did
strangers,
not intentionally do that at
but
all,
I
obviously.
love people, and I love their
You do.
stories, and I
Yeah.
think that's what it is, but yeah, you're right, changing the system, changing so tell us, Rick, what you're changing. What do you have coming up? How are you approaching the new year? Are you taking January to reflect? Have you already started reflecting? Have you made some goals for 2026 visible? How are you going to show progress?
Well, we're only into 5 days into January so far, so I don't think I've really made much visible change into 2025
Okay,
2026,
what
sorry.
about
That's
invisible
that's some
change?
that's something I always find annoying is whenever we go into the new year, because I've got so used to saying the previous year, and I'm sure everybody else has had the same issue, rewiring your mind to
And
say the
rewrite,
next year and
yeah,
rewriting
2026.
everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I would say, the first thing that I'm changing in my system is to make sure that I'm writing the right year down and saying the right year. Um, it isn't a goal, it's changing the system. But yeah, it's as I've already mentioned, I don't want to change my system when it comes to audiobooks. However, the things that I do want to change when it comes to audiobooks is diving more into self reflection. This year has
Mhm,
been, or the previous year has been really about financial productivity, those kind of
mhm,
areas.
mhm.
Now, I finished off with my last book that I listened to was The Canary Code that you
Oh,
suggested,
yep.
Tish,
Mhm, mhm,
which looks at neurodivergency
mhm,
and how to work with people with neurodivergent
mhm.
aspects. Now, for me, I want to start looking into more of those types of literature where I can start to understand my behaviors, not necessarily habits, like obviously the Atomic Habits book, which I've already read, um, but really hone in on maybe more psychological
Mhm.
aspects and understanding how my mind works and how I can
Sure.
improve thought processes. Because for myself, you know this, that I've gone through a lot of development, a lot of improvements of my how I think about things, how I word
Mhm.
things, how I approach or give out into the universe different things about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to really dive into those areas. So I'd say that that's a system change from my perspective. The other thing is I'll be running a half marathon middle of this year.
Yep.
So going back to what Brian Seppi said, I am going to start practicing incline a bit more with my exercising,
Yep. I'm
strengthen
gonna
my
start
body a little bit more.
exercising again.
You're going to start exercising, which is
I have to, yeah,
great.
I had to take a whole break for a whole year.
You
That
did,
was
you did.
listen, that was a change in a system that was forced upon me. So
It
sometimes
was.
sometimes those changes are forced upon you, and, I'm just excited to start working out again. I think
Yeah,
that's you were talking about the books that you've read, and I wanna share these, and I'm gonna shout out Ann Cosma, if you know Ann,
we love
from
Anne.
your time as an educator. She has been incredible. She's been a mentor in my life. I've known her forever. Jess also, like, shout
Yeah.
out to Jess. We
Mhm.
Jess and I were friends before she started working at Flipgrid, but Anne sent me a couple of books. And two of those books are really along the lines of what you were talking about. Some,
Okay.
thinking about your behaviors and
Mm.
one of them is called The Crossroads of Should and Must Find and Follow Your Passion. So if you are wanting to read something that will help you reflect, this would be a good book. It is all about reflecting on what beliefs were you taught that you should do, follow, believe, right? And then the other book is called Your Story is Your Power. And those are both by L. Luna. And I think, finding things that are joyful.
Mm.
That is what I would challenge everyone. Instead of setting a goal, go find something that you like to do. Did you like to color when you were little?
Yeah.
Why aren't you watercoloring right now? Did you like puzzles when you were little? Are you doing a puzzle now? Right? Like thinking back to, because this is the Play It Through podcast, and I talk about this all the time. Go back to what you used to like when you were younger. I've studied The Artist's Way. That's another really great book. That's where I got the morning pages idea. But
Mm.
looking back at the things I liked when I was younger, before the world starts sort of telling you who you are and what you have to believe, what did you like doing? What ice cream did you like? What flavor did you like? What did you not like?
Do
Right?
you
I mean,
I'm gonna stop you there, Tish. Do you think it was the world changing, that made us actually change what we used to do?
what do you mean by that?
Well, you just said that, what did you like doing before the world started telling us
Yeah, the
what
world,
we
the
liked?
society, the people, sometimes our
Do you think
parents,
so?
sometimes, oh, 100%. Yes.
Do you
I don't,
think,
what?
though, that I'm gonna challenge that approach because
You always do. You
I
always
literally
do.
just had like an epiphany moment
Okay, I'm
that
ready.
obviously I agree that society and those around us have had an impact, but it's still us that chose
No,
what
I'm
we
gonna
prioritized.
I'm gonna debunk that. You know why? Because a lot of those beliefs and values were placed upon us by the adults in our life before we were ever old enough to really be responsible for that. Now, what I will say is as an adult now, that's why I just gave you that book, right? Let me reword it. The Crossroads of Should and Must. When you read this book, you will realize there were a lot of things placed on us as kids, and because we were kids, we were looking to the adults around us, and they were sort of telling us what we should do, who we should be.
Mm,
I mean, I did a whole I should have brought it here, but I did a reflection this morning, and it was like basically it was like I listed down all the things that I was taught that I should do, and those were
mm,
not things that I came up with on my own. They are deeply rooted long before I became an adult or a teenager to even be remotely aware that it was something that I didn't have to do, that it wasn't a must, it was a should put
Mm.
on me from other people. So I should go to college. That was always placed on me. I should be a lawyer. My
Mhm.
dad wanted me to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I should get married. I should have kids. I should I mean, I could go on and on and on with this. There's a lot of shoulds that were placed on me and probably people listening right now.
Yeah.
But the book really teaches you those are shoulds from other people. Now, what must I do? The must is really what is your passion and what is your purpose? Why are you on this earth? What are you supposed to be doing? And I don't think that we're able to really find that passion, that purpose, until we take a moment to sit and reflect. And for me, 2025, truly, I was forced to sit down, not work out, not do anything, just sit,
The whole year
rest,
really
and
for
reflect.
you.
The whole
It's not
year.
been
I didn't
a month,
know.
it's been a whole year
It's a
for you to
whole year.
reflect.
And that is why I'm sharing this with you because I will, you want to I love when you challenge me, by the way,
Mm.
because
Mhm.
I do not like I'm not offended by challenge. I want to have these conversations of discourse, but in my
Exactly.
sitting for a whole year, I'm like, "Oh, the shoulds are put on us from other people. The musts are what my internal compass, my intuition, like I must be a teacher. I knew that long ago. And my dad was like, but you should be a lawyer. And I was like, I must be a teacher. You should be a lawyer. I must be a teacher. And I have always been a teacher. So it's sort
Mhm.
of like that. The book is incredible the way it's written, the way the pages are written. You would love it because it's more visual and like graphic design on the pages rather than
Mm.
pages of letters and words like we're
Yeah.
used to. It's such a great find. So I did want to shout out Ann Cosma for that because talk about a great mentor. So
Yeah.
lucky to have Ann
She's so good.
leading that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I
I
feel
think
tired after you've challenged me so much. We're
I d
only
one well, I know that you're tired. I'm gonna
I
continue that
didn't
on.
expect you to challenge me so much on this episode. I was not ready.
I d this is why I'm wanting to learn a lot more from a psychological level,
Okay,
for this year. So what you've just described, I mean, for starters, I'm gonna be asking you to send me links to those so that
I
I
will.
can find them.
Yes.
Uh, so for my own benefit, but I'll also include them in the show notes as well. So if people want to find it themselves and they can, it will be in the description.
Sure.
Going off what you just explained,
Mhm.
one thing I do want to kind of hone in on the people, adults in our lives when we were kids were pushing a narrative on us and we put those as priorities in our own lives because we thought that that was the norm, that was the expected
Mhm.
behavior. And I just want to iterate to anyone that's listening that, and this was a lesson that I've learned, when you don't do something, it means you've not made it a priority. So when
Mm.
we're turning around and saying, "Oh, I don't have time for this," or "Oh, I'd love to do that, but I just don't have the time," or "I'm too busy," you're not busy. You do have the time. You are just putting priorities,
In
or
other
you're
places.
putting things in the priority order and not giving that one thing that priority.
Mm.
And it's what I've looked at is if I was honest with myself very early on in 2025 of I used to use the excuse of, "Oh, sorry, I didn't message you or I didn't email you, completely forgot, or I've been really busy and stuff." No, I just didn't make it a priority.
Mm.
I didn't make it a priority to actually do that.
It's a lot of
And
self accountability right there.
it
Like
is.
to really and I think that's it. I think, it's easy to kind of go one way but then to
Mm.
be responsible enough to go, "You know what? I didn't make it a priority. That's
Yeah,
on
I didn't
me."
make it a
That's
priority. It's
huge.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing to that person, and I'm using excuses to get myself out of the fact that I
My
just
excuse would
didn't.
be like, "I'm so sorry. My ADHD takes over sometimes, and I just forget all things." But it isn't intentional, right? Like, I
Yeah,
do I mean, it happens, but I think you're right.
but
Being able
it,
to be responsible and verbalize that to the other
yeah,
person and even to yourself is
yeah,
huge.
it's massive. So that's why I say
Mhm.
that if there's things that you want to do in 2026 for yourself, and you're saying
Mhm.
that you don't have the time, you do. You just need to change
Mhm.
your priorities. That's all it comes down to. If you change, make one thing that is currently priority number
I'll even
2 or
challenge you
3.
on that. I think it's gonna take you disappointing some people around you, because
Mm,
back to your first question to me, what I was really telling you is that I wasn't okay disappointing people around me, so I was putting myself on the back burner. And
yes.
I think when you start shifting that and going, in order to take care of me, in order to do this thing that I want to do, it may require me disappointing someone else. And if I am too uncomfortable to do that, I'm never going to meet that goal that I want to successfully hit.
Very well said.
Do you challenge me on that?
I don't challenge you on that because you're completely right in my eyes. It aligns perfectly with what I was
For
saying
this
about
one thing.
priorities. For this one thing, everything else I'm just going to challenge you on.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so just going I want to just take a bit of a segue from that.
Okay.
And I know we are 51 minutes into this
We
episode.
are. Wow.
It's been, we've gone through a lot.
I feel beat up from this
I
episode.
know,
My
I know.
brain, you gave me a lot to talk about and think about.
We've got it working out from day one for 2026, and we're going to keep it going. So, I think one of the biggest questions I have for you, Tish, with teachers going into the new year, a new
Mhm.
semester, what would be the biggest thing obviously you mentioned reflection,
Mhm.
excluding reflection.
Mhm.
What would be something you would ask teachers to consider in their day-to-day work at school for the next semester? What would be something you would advise or recommend to educators to
I
do?
think what I would sure, I think what I would recommend is somewhere on their desk. It could be anywhere. It could be on the board. It could be it doesn't need to be something huge. It just needs to be the short micro moments of celebration and wins. And it starts with them, so it could be a sticky note, and every day or every week you have a sticky note of those short micro wins or celebrations, and you now have collected sticky notes. Or if you wanted to do it with your students, it's a great way to get them to also see the good that happened in the day. There's a lot of bad that's happening. It's easy to complain, like you said, it's easy to get into the negative. It's our responsibility to kind of remind ourselves, what's the good? What's the good part of
Hmm.
this job? What's the good part of the day? It teaches our students to do that, but it's also giving you a short moment of reflection every day or every week, and helping your students to learn that reflection piece. That reflection piece is something that you are going to give them that gift. That is a gift that is going to keep on giving if you will take time to do that for yourself and for your students.
Amazing. I love that. Is there anything you want to say before we finish this episode, Tish?
I just want to say that I really, again, would love to challenge all of our listeners to just take a pause in January. Don't try to keep up with the whole hustle goal setting culture that is probably on your timeline, which is a really great, one of the challenges. And maybe we all should just take a break from social media for a bit, or just like Brian said, create and put it out there, and like, that's it. Go read a book then,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Or for everything you're doing on technology, also do a thing that is not technology.
Mm.
I don't know. I could talk about this topic for, a whole nother 3 episodes because I've personally learned so much this last year.
Yeah. So every single episode for 2026 is going to be on self-reflection.
No, it's
No, we're
not.
not. We're not.
I
We're not.
can't handle it. We
We.
can't do episodes like this every week.
So Tisha's going to be on the soapbox every week.
I
She thinks
can't,
last year
no.
was tough. This year's going to be. No, we're not. No, we've got. I mean, obviously, his first episode. We've already got plans
We've got
for
some
some great
incredible
episodes coming up.
guests coming for
We
you.
have,
Yes, we do.
and I'm really excited to see what this next year is going to be. Obviously, the Player 3 podcast will be hitting 1 year old in May, which is
Wow.
like
Wow.
crazy to think that
Right
we're
before
only 5
ISTE.
months away
Mhm.
from hitting 1 year with this podcast. Is gone. Doesn't even feel like that. We were only just creating the "Who Are We" episode
The
like
idea.
yesterday, it feels
Yeah.
like. But no, if wherever you are listening or watching the podcast, please subscribe, follow, like this if you've enjoyed it. And it will mean so much for us. It will also keep you updated for future episodes that come out, as well as any
And
little
you
short
want
videos and everything. And yeah, you want to be looking out for
in the
those
know.
too. Yeah, exactly. And also, I don't always say this, but if you're listening on Spotify and would like to leave us a review, that would be great. If there's anything you'd like to hear from us, any guests you'd like us
Or
to
a
have on,
guest. Yeah.
please let us know in the comments or DM us on socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You
Mhm.
can message us directly. All the links are in the description for you to check out. Before I sign off, Tish, I'll give you one last final moment. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Happy New Year. Happy 2026, everyone.
Yep. Happy New Year, everyone. And till next week, we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.